In a world where carbs are your enemy, you need one man to help you fight your battles. That man is Jimmy.
Combating nutrition disinformation and general bull. It's Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com.
The Keto Hacking MD podcast, hosted by veteran health podcaster Jimmy Moore and ketogenic biohacking physician Dr. John Lemansky. Visit our website, ketohackingmd.com. Listen in as Jimmy and the Keto Doctor share the powerful therapeutic effects of a low-carb, high-fat ketogenic lifestyle, combined with biohacking techniques that optimize your health. Maximize your keto lifestyle through proven and practical N=1 testing hacks. Check us out at ketohackingmd.com. Go start hacking. See you next Friday.
What up, what up? Welcome back to another Instagram Live, you guys. We're here with another episode of Jimmy Rants, the chilled version of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. And as always, we start off over on Instagram Live, so go follow me there at Living Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you're there, you can engage live in the content. If you missed the live, you can watch the replay for up to 24 hours. After 24 hours, it does disappear from Instagram. Hello, Dr. Brett Hill. What's up, man? Hadn't talked to you in a long time. So we pop all the past episodes up on YouTube. So go follow me on YouTube. Type in a keyword, Jimmy Rants. You will find the show. Finally, we make the best of the best moments of this here show in podcast form. It's the Jimmy Rants podcast over on Apple Podcasts as well as Stitcher. JimmyRants.com is the website. And yes, I am chilling like a villain here in my hot tub. I'm gonna turn off the jets because it gets a little bit noisy. You might hear chickens cock-a-doodle-doodling in the background, but I wanted to come on here, you guys, and give you an opportunity to pretty much ask me anything. And I put this out on my story, so I did get a few questions that came in from that we will address, but then I'm coming to you. So one question that keeps coming up in YouTube video comments and sometimes here on Instagram and various places is, why do you record your Jimmy Rants in your car? And it's like, because I can. And now it's kind of become my shtick, because everybody's like, you're wearing a seatbelt in a car. Are you like driving down the road? No, I'm not driving down the road. Just in my car. I try not to disturb Christine, so I do get out in the car while I'm out and about doing errands, and I record Jimmy Rants in my car. Today I'm in my hot tub and loving it on this Friday afternoon. So let me go to the questions, and then I'll be coming to you guys here in a minute. So I asked, what are your questions? Fat Fueled Fitness says, what are the absolute must-have supplements if you want to balance your electrolytes when you start keto? So here are the things that you need to do. Number one, you want to make sure you're getting enough water. So water is the key. When you shift over from being a sugar burner to a fat burner, people don't realize this, but you actually dump quite a bit of water. So you have to replenish that water. Why are you dumping water? So in the water, or excuse me, in the muscles, there is water. And so when you are a sugar burner, the muscles is where the glycogen is stored. So the glycogen is in water in your muscles. So when you shift over to a low carb, moderate protein, high fat diet to start becoming ketogenic, your body is going to dump all that extra water, which is why you have to pee a lot more when you first start on a ketogenic diet. Very normal, you guys. Your body's dumping all of those stored glycogen stores. So it has water in it, but it also has other electrolytes in it. So that includes magnesium, potassium, and sodium. So let's start with the sodium, because everybody can add in salt. So add in some more salt, just salt your food a little bit more, and that'll typically take care of that. Potassium is very easy as well. You can get all the potassium you need, and it has twice as much potassium as a banana from an avocado. So eat a half of an avocado and you get more than enough potassium to replenish your body. Finally, magnesium, you can take that in the form of a supplement. Magnesium oxide, magnesium glycinate, those are the two kinds you want. The one you want to avoid is magnesium citrate, unless you like poopy pants. It will give you diarrhea. So water, salt, potassium, magnesium, you get those 4 things and you'll ward off all the electrolyte imbalance that gives you the so-called keto flu. All right, let's see what another question is. Angel's Lifestyle Choices wants to know fasting. I try 24 hours and I always get a headache. I don't have sugar-free electrolytes in my counter. So 24 hours of fasting and you get a headache. So the only thing I can think of right off the bat that could be your demise here is maybe you're used to drinking caffeinated beverages of some sort. So whether it's coffee or tea or diet soda or something, that might be the cause of why you get a headache. Fasting in and of itself, especially for as short as only 24 hours, should not cause you to have a headache. Typically that's your body's withdrawal from things. So I would not even try to do a 24-hour fast unless you are very well keto adapted. So get keto adapted, stay there for a little while, and what you'll find is you'll spontaneously start fasting for a pretty long time. And then if one day you want to push that fasting window from the 18 hours to the full 24 hours, then give it a go at that point. So I don't think it's necessarily an electrolytes issue, but certainly adding in more salt, especially salt, when you're fasting. You can stick it underneath your tongue, pink Himalayan sea salt, Redmond's real salt, any of those kind of salts underneath your tongue, and you'll get all the benefits that will hopefully prevent those headaches from happening. And then this person, I asked for a question about keto, and they wrote, Keto Clarity. Yes, that's my book. I wrote that book 5 years ago, and it's changed a lot of people's lives. Right at about 500,000 copies of Keto Clarity have sold, been translated into about 16, 17 languages now. It's pretty darn awesome. When I was writing that book, I had no idea the impact it was going to have, and still having today. All right, so I'm gonna go back to you guys, see what your questions are. Welcome in, welcome in. If you're just joining us, we are doing an open Q&A session all about keto, fasting, cholesterol, podcasting, book writing, pretty much anything you want to ask me, I am game. So fire away with your questions. All right, who's got the first question? I find it cool that you do your rants in the car, says Liv. Yeah, it was so funny because I first started off doing them here in the hot tub pretty often. And then it got to be way too cold to be doing. I'd be like, welcome back to another Jimmy Rants. It would be too cold out here. But it's pretty warm today. But anyway, I started doing them in my car, and I'm like, I kind of like that, where I put it on my little stand there on my dashboard, and then when I go to the Q&A, I pull it off the stand and I talk to you guys. So I do love that, but it is so funny how many people are worried because, oh, you're driving down the road. No, I'm not. I'm not driving. Robert Pardue, that's my cousin. He says, does Crestor elevate triglycerides? When I quit taking Crestor, my triglyceride numbers dropped. Well, no. The answer to your question is no. So Crestor is a statin medication. It's a cholesterol lowering medication. And Robert, I think the correlation with your triglycerides coming down, simply because I know your situation, has a lot more to do with you went keto when you came off of those medications. And once your body started efficiently burning fat for fuel and you were no longer feeding it the carbohydrates you were consuming, that's why your triglycerides went down. It really had nothing to do per se with the medication. But no, Crestor does not make you hang on to triglycerides. I've never seen any data that supports that, but I have a lot more faith in believing that it's when you started doing carbohydrate restriction and went keto that the triglycerides went down. Sodium, potassium, magnesium. That's right, Olga. Liz wants to know, what are the best ways to keep your gallbladder healthy? This is shocking to a lot of people because they think, oh, well, the gallbladder is what produces the bile, so you don't want to overload it with having to create too much bile. Bile is what's used to help break down and metabolize dietary fats. And so people are under the assumption, oh, you don't want to work it too hard, so you back off on the amount of fat. And so many people that have eaten a low-fat diet, guess what happens down the road? They got to have their gallbladder taken out. That's exactly what happened to Christine. She now knows that she really didn't need to do that from her nutritional therapy training. But here's the best way to keep your gallbladder healthy. Eat fat. Mic drop. Eat fat, because then you allow that bile production, which is very natural, to keep happening. The moment you stop eating enough fat for your body to produce bile on a regular basis, it starts to get sludgy and slimy inside of your gallbladder, and it's that sludgy sliminess that starts to back it up somewhat, and you start getting pain in your side. That's what happened with Christine, that made them go in right at about 11, 12 years ago to take out her gallbladder. And she now has knowledge that that probably wasn't such a good idea, but she did do low-fat diets for many, many years, which forced that. So to keep your gallbladder happy, just keep eating keto. High fat will help that happen. Are you in your spa? That's awesome. Yes, RL Blackbean, I have a jacuzzi hot tub, and especially on a Friday afternoon when I'm chilling like a villain, I'm gonna pop into this hot tub. And I thought, what the heck, let's do a Q&A session while I am getting relaxation in my body. So thanks for letting me hang out with you guys. What is the longest fast you've ever done, says Livin' Liz Healthy. So I've done 3 21-day fasts, but the longest one, not consecutive, but the longest one I did was January of 2017. I did 28 days out of 31 days. So I was trying to do a whole month. I was trying to do 31 days in January that year. And I got about 2.5 weeks in, and we had to travel emergency. Well, when I travel, I don't do so well, and it stoked hunger, and I'm like, screw it, I'm gonna eat. So I ate, and I was like, okay, I guess I could start back the fast again. So I started fasting again, and fasted for a few more days till we had to drive home from that event. So then on the drive home, I ate. So then I was able to make it after that, somewhere about a week, and I had a day of weakness, and I had to halt the fast again, and then I finished the fast. There was about 6 or 7 days left after that. So that's the longest one, non-consecutive. But as far as consecutive goes, I've done 3 21-day fasts. I would say now that I've done all these really super duper long fasts, that I think you get the law of diminishing returns with fasting once you go over about 5 to 7 days. So the longest I go now is probably somewhere around 7 days. So yeah, because I think once you get past 7 days, you're not going to get added benefits, and it's possible that it actually could do more harm than good. Now obviously it's situational. Some people could probably stand to go a little bit longer than that, but I think in the day-to-day maintenance, most people, the vast majority of people, get all the benefits of fasting just from intermittent fasting. But those of us who have a little more challenges metabolically, we could stand to go 3, 5, even up to 7 days of fasting. Going to get my cholesterol checked after 2 years keto, very curious. So Angela, that's awesome. So if you're just gonna get a standard lipid panel, here are the things that I'm going to predict. If you've been keto for 2 years, you should have triglyceride levels under 100. Optimally under 70, but it's definitely gonna be under 100. If you've been keto for 2 years, you should have HDL cholesterol over 50 and optimally over 70. And because you're a girl, women tend to have higher levels of HDL cholesterol. I've seen some women as high as 120 on their HDL cholesterol. But anything over 50 is good. you're likely going to be well over 70. I'm going to say it's going to be in the 90s with your HDL, and I'm going to say somewhere in like the 50s or 60s for your triglycerides. Those are the two that matter the most. LDL cholesterol, as I mentioned in an earlier Jimmy Rants, is pretty much irrelevant because it's only calculated, estimated using the Friedewald equation. And then of course total cholesterol is total bunk as well, because it includes that estimated LDL and it includes that number that you want higher, your HDL cholesterol. So it doesn't really tell you a whole lot. So those two numbers are irrelevant. Anxious to hear how you do. Jimmy, do you leave out dairy? What would be a reason on keto to do this? So Angela, dairy is one of those, your mileage may vary. So some people, especially people with autoimmune disease, probably need to cut out dairy and nightshades and some other things to do what's called the autoimmune protocol, AIP. Go look it up. My friend Mickey Trescott is one of the leading voices on autoimmune protocols, and she could definitely help you out with an autoimmune keto if you wanted to do that. But yeah, so in general, dairy, for some people, it's the proteins in the dairy that make their body reactive, make it more inflammatory. Some people tend to do pretty well with dairy, so I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater and say that everybody needs to give up dairy. That was one of the mistakes I saw in the paleo community. Oh, nobody should be drinking dairy. And I'm going, well, some people could probably do okay. I personally do include it in my diet, but test and see how you do. Do for a period of time. There's certainly no harm if you wanted to cut it out and see how you do, but there's certainly no mandate that you cut out dairy when you do keto. T. West Hughes, how long should the dawn effect last in the morning? What is the number difference between that and where your blood sugar should be? So, thank you, T. West Hughes. So the dawn phenomena, it's also been called physiologic insulin resistance. It's more accurately called, in my book, The Keto Cure, we call it a glucose sparing effect. So this is where you have an elevated level of blood sugar in the morning, okay? So typically normal is between 60 and 100. So when you eat a ketogenic diet, some people report 110, 112, even upwards of say 118, 120 in the morning with their blood sugar, and they freak out. What in the world is going on? But it's pretty elementary, it's pretty simple to explain. So there are glucose dependent functions in the body. So those glucose dependent functions in the body need glucose. So when you wake up in the morning, somewhere around 3 a.m., your body starts to increase the hormone called cortisol. Cortisol goes up, and that makes your blood sugar go up as well. And if you're insulin resistant, maybe you have a little more of an exaggerated response with your blood sugar. But here's the thing, you guys. You wake up, you test your blood, and you're, oh my gosh, look at that 118. But what you don't realize is that blood sugar is actually going to be shuttled to the parts of the body, parts of the brain, parts of the heart, parts of the muscles, all over your body to take care of all of those glucose-dependent functions. That's why it's called a glucose sparing effect. Your body knows that you need that glucose, and it's putting it in the blood so that it can be shuttled for all those glucose-dependent functions. That makes sense? So then if you test, say, 3-4 hours after you wake up, somewhere around, say, I don't know, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, even noon, before you have any food, you're going to notice your blood sugar is back into a normal range, somewhere between that 60 and 100. Most people typically fall into like the 80s and 90s for their blood sugar. So that's why you have elevated blood sugar in the morning. It's not a bad thing. It's actually a metabolically, physically good thing for your body. All right, what other questions do you guys have? Heather says, yeah, there are only a few things that apply to everyone with nutrition. You got to test and see how your body handles dairy. Yeah, dairy is very personalized. It's very individualized. So I know a lot of people that do very well on dairy. I got to tell you, dairy has been a godsend on this keto carnivore that I'm doing. So carnivore being defined as anything that comes from an animal. So obviously all dairy comes from an animal. And so I've enjoyed adding in dairy to the meats that I'm eating and the eggs and having cheese and various dairy sources with that. So if you're just joining us, we are doing an impromptu Q&A. Feel free to ask me any questions as part of this Jimmy Rants episode, answering general questions from you about keto, fasting, cholesterol, podcasting, book writing, pretty much whatever you want to know. Why Jimmy Moore sits in his car to do Jimmy Rants. All of those questions are certainly acceptable. Marla says, how do I calculate ketones to blood glucose ratio? It's pretty easy. You take your ketone reading, okay? Your ketone reading from your blood. So let's say your blood ketones are 2.0. I'm just making the math really easy, okay? So blood glucose has to be converted into millimoles per milliliter, or millimoles per liter. So go on Google and type in milligrams per deciliter, mg, and then the little slash DL to mmol. So if you do a Google search of that, there are converters galore where you can type in your blood sugar. Let's say your blood sugar is 75. So you type in 75 into the milligrams per deciliter, and then you press calculate, and it gives you the millimole per liter. Here's the thing. America is the only ones that uses like 70s, 80s, that kind of thing. The rest of the world pretty much universally uses millimoles per liter for their blood sugar. So when they hear us say 75, they don't know in their readings that that's actually 75, somewhere around 4.2, something like that. I only know because I've been to Australia a few times and I've had to give talks and I've had to translate these numbers on the fly into millimoles. So go use that tool. Google is your friend, you guys. Go put in milligrams per deciliter to millimole per liter, and then you'll find a calculator that will let you do it. So then you take the millimole per liter, the 4.2, and you divide it by the 2.2, and that is your glucose, ketone to glucose ratio, which in that case is somewhere right around 2.0. I believe you're trying to get to 3.0, maybe 1.1, depending on your goals of why you're calculating that. But thank you for that, Marla. Sue B says, my husband's doctor wants him to go on a statin drug. He said he has a 10% chance of a stroke or heart attack. Is he right with cholesterol reading of 230? So I did a whole Jimmy Rants, 2 of them actually today, talking about cholesterol. And so 230 doesn't tell me anything, Subi. I'm gonna need more information. So do you have your husband's triglyceride number? Do you have your husband's HDL cholesterol number? I know it's a long shot, but do you happen to have his high sensitivity C-reactive protein, HSCRP number? Additionally, do you have any kind of advanced cholesterol markers like an NMR lipoprofile test? If you don't, it's all good. I'm going to give you general information, and if you have any additional information, please put it down below, and I'll scroll to that in a minute. But in general, before I would ever go on a statin medication, your husband needs to know that there are new cholesterol guidelines which does not allow your doctor to put him on a statin drug before he gives him a CT heart scan. So your doctor needs to run a CT heart scan. I did a whole Jimmy Rants all about this, that in the new guidelines, you guys, they have to offer the patient, before they prescribe a statin drug, they have to offer the patient the ability to go get a CT heart scan. So what is that? So it gives you a heart calcium score. It's basically a CT scan of your chest. And so it's about a 3-minute test. I did a video of Christine going through one several years ago. If you want to type in Christine Moore calcium heart scan, something like that, on a Google search or on a YouTube search, you'll find it. But what they do is they look for signs of hardened plaque, because that's what you want to know. 230 of a total cholesterol doesn't tell me a darn thing about your risk of heart disease, but actual signs of disease, which is what a CT heart scan does. So that would be first and foremost. And if you have to look that up, definitely write to me. I can send you the link to this new guideline so that you can print it out and take it to your doctor and say, hey, look, the new cholesterol guidelines require you to do this before you push a statin drug. But in general, 230 total cholesterol, I don't know how old your husband is, but that is so stupid that he's wanting to put him on a cholesterol. I did write a whole book about this if you want to learn more, called Cholesterol Clarity, What the HDL is Wrong with My Numbers. You can go get it at cholesterolclarity.com, and it takes you to the Amazon page. We did an audiobook, a Kindle, and a hardback book. So it'll teach you all the basics and why doctors are so clueless about this and why they keep pushing a statin medication on you. It's shocking, you guys, how little of this is actually based on science and how much of it is based on, well, it's just the way we've always done it. Well, we have solid science when they don't really have solid science. Alrighty, let's see. Mish My Way LCHF, how can we reset our metabolism after counting and cutting calories for too long? What a great question. The best way that I've seen, and I definitely credit Robert Sykes from Keto Savage, he talks about upping your calories pretty significantly. So you do it and you vacillate it between a very high calorie day and then kind of a normal calorie day, not the low calorie that you've been doing, but a high calorie day and a normal calorie, and then a high calorie and normal calorie, because what that'll do is push your body up in that calorie count so that your metabolism will now handle the higher amounts. Now, obviously, if in the midst of that you could do some exercise of some sort, that would be beneficial as well, because that too will also increase your metabolism and allow your caloric intake to go higher. So hopefully that trick will help you out. It's certainly no easy answer. There's a lot of moving parts to that. If you have various conditions that would slow down your metabolism naturally, that could throw a monkey wrench in it all, but definitely let me know how that goes. When and how often should I test my blood ketones and or my blood glucose? Keto Beeb wants to know. So honestly, when and how often should I test? Well, should you test? Maybe. Here's my thinking. If you are brand new to keto, then you need to test. Test in the morning, see where you stand. Test in the evening, see where you stand. And just kind of keep an eye on things for a period of time until it becomes so intuitive that you know almost on a whim what your blood ketones and your blood sugar is doing, just based on symptoms of how you feel. If you've been doing this a little while, I don't think you have to be so anal retentive about doing it all the time. I think it just becomes very intuitive, and you know, because you're getting all the benefits of ketosis, you know if you're in the zone or you're not in the zone. So that would be something that I think would be a clear sign for intermediate. Now, if you've been doing this a very long time, I wouldn't bother testing except for just checking in every once in a while. Now, here's the thing. If you want to use blood sugar and blood ketones as a way to test, so let's say you're testing getting stress reduced in your life, and so you're doing all these things and you want to kind of see what impact that's having on your body. Test at that point. If you want to test having a little bit higher protein in your diet and you want to see what that's doing to your blood ketones as well as your blood sugar, test during that time. If you want to test and see what sitting in a hot tub talking to people on Instagram Live is doing, test at that time and see how you're doing. But I've come to the conclusion that there's some people that become so paralyzed by blood sugar and blood ketone testing, it almost is the new scale. And so I'm not a fan of stepping on the scale, that lying liar that lies. And so these blood ketone and blood sugar markers, unless you're using them strategically to kind of keep an eye on how things are going, if you're just doing it willy-nilly, it's almost exactly the same as stepping on a bathroom scale. All right, so Sue B came back with the numbers. His HDL 42, A1C 55. So I asked for triglycerides and I asked for HSCRP. So based on an HDL of 42, it's a little low. So I don't know, is he eating keto? How long has he been eating keto? I would say with a 42 HDL cholesterol, he's probably either not keto, or if he is eating keto, he's not eating enough fat, because the best way to raise the HDL cholesterol is to eat more fat. I'm gonna predict, because of his HDL being 42, that his triglycerides are over 125. I don't know that, but we'll find out here in a minute if you have those numbers. As far as the A1C goes, 5.5 is right at that borderline of what's considered healthy. You kind of want it to be below 5.5, but all in all, it's not too bad. Definitely give me more numbers if you have those. T. West Hughes, going about getting a small meet and greet together, places that you think would work. Also, should there be a dedicated subject, thoughts and ideas? So, small meet and greet together. So where do you live? And what do you mean places you think it would work? You mean a restaurant? I know I've done some meet and greets when we've been traveling at pretty much Brazilian steakhouses, regular steakhouses. Look to see if they have a back room that would allow a group to meet together. The main thing is just make it a support group. I don't think you have to necessarily have a dedicated subject per se. Where are you trying to do this too? What city and state are you doing this in? Because if it's close enough, I would be delighted to help get it going for you by possibly coming and speaking to your group once you kind of get it going and get it built up. So my best advice is just start it and let people know about it and get the word out about it on Facebook and various other places. I think it's a great idea. All right, Sue B says triglycerides are 106. Okay, that's not completely horrible. Again, if you are keto, that number should be below 100, optimally below 70, okay? So, and no HSCRP, he is keto, but I guess he needs more fat. Well, 106 triglycerides also tells me he's eating a few too many carbs. So without knowing what he's eating, it's very difficult for me to help you. But when in doubt, cut the carbs some more. When in doubt, moderate the protein. When in doubt, raise the amount of dietary fat. And make sure he's eating ample amount of calories as well. Christine is a nutritional therapy practitioner. She can help him dial in his diet so that he gets those numbers in line, and definitely let me know how that works out. Griff Sam says, yes, steakhouse. See, Sam's been to a couple of my meetups that I've done. I did one in Denny's with Sam, and then another one was at a Brazilian steakhouse. So pretty darn cool to do it at one of those. So T. West Hughes says, in Peculiar, Missouri. I don't know where Peculiar, Missouri is. I'd have to drive a little ways to get there. Bod in 02, Jimmy, are your keto beliefs similar to those of Dr. Berg? I just never hear you mention his work. Well, I have my reservations, honestly, about Dr. Berg. I think all in all, he has done a great service because he pumps out the videos at a breakneck speed. I thought I did with these Jimmy Rants videos. He puts them out, you guys, and he does a really good job. He keeps them short and to the point. A lot of his stuff is really, really good. But just because he puts keto in the title of his videos doesn't necessarily mean he's been keto for a long, long time. I've found out from one of his former patients that about 4 years ago, he was pushing high grains, low fat, high protein. He was definitely not on the keto end of things. And now suddenly he's popped up on the scene and he's a so-called keto expert. So I have reservations whenever I see people that come out of nowhere and suddenly pretend to be a keto expert. When I was writing on Keto Clarity, there was no such thing as a Dr. Eric Berg because he was not into keto at the time. Now I get it, people can change their minds, and if he's doing great work, great. Here's my other problem with Dr. Berg. So he tells you in some videos that you need to get 7 to 10 servings of vegetables a day, mostly kind of green leafy vegetables. And vegetables in and of themselves, not a big deal, it's no big deal. But he says, but if you can't do that unreasonable amount of servings of vegetables, come buy my greens drink from my website. So all of the red flags in my head go off when I hear that kind of thing. Now, I am not anti-entrepreneurial. I'm not anti-capitalism. I think if the guy wants to sell whatever, it's his prerogative to do so. But I think first and foremost, you're providing a service to the community by giving them information, giving them encouragement and education. And he does do quite a bit of that. But I just wonder what's his motivation and what's going to happen once keto starts to wane in the culture and it's no longer this big, massive business opportunity for him. Will he still have the gusto of keto? I was talking about keto 5-10 years ago. Where was this guy 5-10 years ago? Nowhere to be found. So where's he going to be in a couple of years? Who knows? I don't know. So that's my thoughts. Sue B says, my husband's doctor told him to eat less sausage. Yeah, because your doctor is stuck on conventional wisdom. Your doctor doesn't know a bleep thing about nutrition. We got to hammer this point, you guys. Every single time a doctor gives dietary advice, he is giving advice that's outside of his training as a medical doctor. They are not trained in carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. They're simply not. And most of the information that they now put out and give out is simply a parroting of the dietary guidelines and or what the dietitians in their office have to say. So the fact that he tells your doctor to cut back on the sausages, doc, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. Doctors know a lot about pharmacology and they know a lot about physiology, but they don't know a darn thing about nutrition. Dr. Berg likes kale a lot. Yeah, and he wants to sell you his kale greens drink, I'm sure. Marla wants to know, will you be coming to the Low Carb Seattle event? So I think that's in May, and I've got a very busy May. So I'm going to Italy with the trip with Maria Emmerich. So she's organized this trip to Italy. It's a couple weeks long, and it's basically the first 2 weeks in May. Then when I get back from that, we're going out to Myrtle Beach, Christine and I, with some friends for a week. Then we're home a week, and then the low carb cruise is that next week. So I'm aware of the Low Carb Seattle event and definitely would love to see all my Seattle Ketonian friends, but unfortunately won't be at that event. Nutrition is out of the scope of practice for a medical doctor. That's right, Heather. His doctor is only a DO and not an MD. Well, Sue B, DOs are really good. Osteopaths are just as good as medical doctors, if not better. My co-author on the Keto Cure is also a doctor of osteopathy. His name, Dr. Adam Nally. And so I don't think just because he's a DO disqualifies him. I think the fact that he's in the medical profession, the mainstream of medical profession, is what disqualifies him. What's up with eggs being bad again? So AK Bonbon, go watch my Jimmy Rants, the very last one I did before this one. Go watch the last one. It's still up on Instagram Live, so go watch that. I did a whole hour-long, almost hour-long, I think it was 50 minutes long, rant all about what was wrong with that, and there was a lot wrong with it. If it happens to disappear before you can get to it, definitely hop over to YouTube and type in Jimmy Rants to find that particular video. All right, guys, so that's it for this spontaneous open Q&A session on keto, fasting, cholesterol, podcasting, and book writing. Nobody asked about podcasting. I'm always answering people's questions privately about podcasts and the book writing process. It's always fun to answer those questions. But nobody asked anything today. It's all good, you guys. So guys, that's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. As always, you can go over to JimmyRants.com. It's got links to everything I'm about to share. We start off on Instagram Live, do a couple of videos a day. Today I did 3, you guys. I'm trying to make up for where we were down the other day. No thanks to Instagram being down. So you got 3 of them today on Instagram Live. So go follow me there at Livin' Low Carb Man, LIVIN LOWCARBMAN. Once you're there, you can engage live in the content After that, you have to watch it on replay, but you get 24 hours to watch it on replay. After 24 hours, it does disappear. We throw all the past episodes on YouTube, so go find Jimmy Rants on YouTube and subscribe to the YouTube channel. You'll never miss a single episode. Finally, we put the best of the best moments of this here show in podcast form. Didn't ask my question, but enjoyed what I caught. Well, Michelle, or Mishi, excuse me, ask your question because it's a good one. I will get it in as I finish up here. So type it in real quick here. So the best of the best moments of this here show in podcast form. It's the Jimmy Rants podcast. It's over on Apple Podcasts as well as Stitcher. Apple Podcasts. Go there, you guys. Leave me a review. It really helps out. Mishi, I'm stalling for you, darling. So keep typing away your question. Give me the highlights and we'll cover it. JimmyRants.com is the website for all the information with the links and everything. Eggs and milk give life, and life is composed of meats. Exactly. All right, let me see if I can recreate Mishi's question. She posted this on my Instagram page. She said something along the lines of, I'm in nutritional ketosis, getting really good ketone levels. Yeah, and there's her question. Really good ketone levels between like 0.7 and 1.5. And yet when I go work out, when I'm done working out, my blood glucose is high after exercise. Keto is great, but what's up with that? So, Mishi, thank you for this question. This is a common question that brand new people to keto don't understand. So here's the thing. When you exercise, and you're probably a freaking rock star when you're in the gym. When you exercise, your body is doing what's called glycolytically demanding exercise. Movement, okay? So glycolytically demanding, that glycogen is glucose. So the glucose, even though when you're keto, you've dumped a lot of the glycogen, you've not dumped all of it. Remember at the beginning of the show, somebody asked about why I have higher blood sugar in the morning, because of the glucose dependent functions in the body. So when you exercise, you are releasing glucose, and the ambulance is driving by as I'm doing a Jimmy Rants. You're releasing the glucose into your bloodstream, okay? So when you stop exercising, that glucose is still in there. So when you prick your finger and you test your blood sugar, guess what? You could see a 137. You could see a 141, a 121. All of these things are extraordinarily normal. So what I usually tell people is don't ever test your blood sugar right after exercise. Wait at least an hour. Don't eat anything or whatever, or if you do eat, wait a couple of hours at least after you've eaten before you test your blood sugar again. Because what you're going to find is that really, really high blood sugar has come down again, because your body is using that glucose partially as energy to help with your glycolytically demanding workout. So I don't know what kind of workout you're doing. If you're doing kind of if you're doing a yoga class, it probably should not be going ultimately really, really high. But if you're doing heavy, heavy lifting, it's gonna go high. If you do a spin class, it's gonna go high. If you do a Zumba class, it's gonna go high. If you're just walking on a treadmill, reading a magazine, watching Dr. Phil, it ain't gonna do much. So hopefully that answers your question. So Mishi says she does weights and HIIT training. Mishi, you're gonna have high glucose, so. Not a surprise at all, sweetheart. It just means you are killing it in the gym. Kudos to you. Keep doing it, and don't test your blood sugar as soon as you get out. Wait a couple of hours after you get out of the gym and then test, and you'll see the magic that happens as a result of nutritional ketosis. All right, guys, that's it for Jimmy Rants, JimmyRants.com. So until next time, we'll see you then.